Hi! In today's video, we're going to speak about such a sensitive topic: American politics. Politics is the second most public activity in the United States, after, of course, the changing of swimsuits in the Kardashian family. And yet, everyone seems to have settled on the fact that our politicians have sinister secret agendas and that they're controlled by big corporations and are fundamentally just about money grabbing. The only disagreement is over which politicians these are. So at every family Christmas dinner, Democratic and Republican voting relatives are at each other's throats, insisting that it's their side which is the source of all evil. Ah, yes, that's how democracy dies, with the sound of close relatives stabbing each other with cutlery. Guys, I don't know much about politics, but money, well, I might know a thing or two about that. And it's clear that the salaries of our elected officials don't always correspond with their lifestyles. For example, a nurse in anesthetics earns on average $202,000 per year, whereas a U.S. congressman only earns $176,000 a year. And while people tend to seek more high-paying jobs, I don't see a line of congressmen applying for nursing training for some reason. The average net worth of a member of Congress is 12 times more than that of the average American household, and over half of all congressmen are millionaires. But in this video, I'm going to be doing a bit of investigation. How do American politicians actually make their money? Is it true that they're all controlled by big businesses and that our democracy is in the worst state it's ever been? Anyway, let's go. Now, it's expressly forbidden for government servants or elected officials to use their position for personal monetary gain. Protecting our freedoms is an honor that money can't buy. And for everything else, well, there's a suspiciously rich spouse. And I'm sure that you've heard some idealistic views of early American democracy. Did you know that the first elected senators in 1789 only got paid $6 a day? Because in the good old days, it wasn't about the money. Well, two things here. Firstly, those senators were some of the richest men in the country to start with. And secondly, if you're idealizing that period, chances are you wouldn't be able to even vote for them. In most states in the late 18th century, voting rights were restricted to white men owning a certain amount of land. How do I know you probably wouldn't be one of them? Well, because you're on the channel called Where's My Money, not on a channel called How to Buy Tractors Wholesale. Basically, less than 100,000 people were able to vote. So politics and money weren't separated then either. Democracy was pretty much a closed shop for the rich. But how does the relationship between politics and money look now? Well, when politicians enter mutually beneficial, informal relationships with businesses, this is called Crony Capitalism. Crony capitalism can have numerous manifestations, both legal and illegal, but let's take a look at three main ones: lobbying, insider trading, and revolving doors. Lobbying firms act as middlemen between politicians and businesses. Let's have a little game to understand it better. I'll put you in the middle of a real-life scenario, and you can try to guess which real-life politician you are. So, say that you're an honest, law-abiding U.S. senator from one very sunny state. Well, on average, a U.S. senator needs to raise about $14,000 every day for their campaign just to stay in office. Who has that kind of money? Well, of course, big businesses. So, let's say that there's a huge sugar-producing company in your state that would like to finance your campaign. Why? Well, because your position and influence could help them retain certain privileges on the market, privileges that some people might not find entirely justified. But they can't just give you the money for your campaign in a briefcase. That would be illegal. Instead, they'd hire a special company, a lobbying firm, that would organize benefits or fundraisers funded by the sugar company. And of course, over a glass of semi-sweet champagne, a lobbyist would gently suggest how you need to vote and who to speak to for more of these events to happen. And you would have to wince, but listen and pretend that you wince because the champagne is semi-sweet while you normally prefer dry, but the sugar daddies are buying. and the lobbyist guy would pat you on the shoulder and say, "It's all right, Marco. Florida will always be yours." Let me give you another example. Imagine that you're a young Democratic president and you've just been elected. Via the Department of Energy, you start running several stimulus programs for alternative energy, giving out over $20 billion in grants and loans to different companies. However, over 80% of that money goes to the companies that, through lobbyists, backed your presidential campaign. So, yeah, this scheme might look a bit more elegant than the first one, but it's still the same idea, Mr. Obama. All right, so you kind of knew there was Barack Obama from the start because, I mean, when was the last time that we had a young Democratic president and concerns about ecology? Or to put it short term, when was the last time that we had a young president? Insider trading is using your access to confidential information to your advantage on the stock market, or even selling this info to third parties. Is another real-life scenario. Let's say that it's early 2020. You know, you don't have that post-pandemic second chin, and everyone around you is not in therapy, and we only wear masks on Halloween. Well, imagine that you're also a member of the US Senate's Committee of Health, sitting at a closed meeting in late January 2020. And you find out that a certain virus, of which there are currently only 6 cases in the US, is actually going to hit the country really super hard in the next few months, causing the stock market to crash, among other things. So you go home, and after a good night's sleep, you have a spiritual awakening. You're a completely new person, and the first thing that you need to change about yourself is your investment portfolio. You sell some stock worth millions of dollars, and maybe you even buy some stock of, say, DuPont, which makes personal protective equipment, because you just have this hunch that not seeing a person's face is going to be really in this season. Who are you in this story? Well, pretty much any of at least 6 Republican and Democratic senators who were involved in this scandal. And if you're wondering about the outcome, no charges were brought, and the senators' consolidated position was, "We completely deny doing anything illegal," or in the wise words of Senator Burr's spokesperson on the matter, LOL. And since we're speaking about a top professional, I can only assume that she meant legal. Obviously legal. Finally, Revolving Doors is the feature of Crony Capitalism, which deals with the biggest problem of being an elected official in a democratic system, namely that it's temporary. Now let's imagine that it's 2019 and you've been a member of the 115th US Congress, but you have to leave your position. You can do a lot of things which would make the world a better place. You could become a university lecturer or a porn star, or you could just retire. But instead, you get a job at a lobbying firm whose clients that you've helped in the past, or with one of its clients, big corporations. Hence the name, you never leave the system completely, you just go back in through a revolving door. And financially, you've nowhere to go but up. On average, you'll be making around 14 times more money in this new private company job than you ever did working for the government. So, could this future 1,400% raise be a sort of delayed bribe to ensure that you protect those companies' interests? Well, that's really up to you. But in this scenario, you're literally any of the 60% of members of the 115th US Congress who found employment after leaving office. Yes, both Democratic and Republican. So to sum up, those were the main ways American politicians raise and earn their money. So, is our democracy really in the worst state that it's ever been? Well, as my favorite philosopher Ian Malcolm said, life finds a way. I say, money finds a way. Politics is a job like any other, and the current ways of getting money from big businesses are pretty much inherent in the system. Consider this. Our early democracy was a closed shop where the rich were making all of the decisions. But as politics has become more inclusive, with almost 300 million voters who have access to information technology, politicians now require huge funds to battle for the voters' attentions. Who has such amounts? Well, only big businesses. Ironic, really. The more inclusive the democracy becomes, the more money politicians need, the more dependent they are on big businesses, and the more opportunities big companies have to promote their interests by informal means, bypassing democracy. I guess the only alternative would be if you could only use your own money to go into politics. But in this case, politics would then just be Elon Musk firing 90% of Congress by email versus Jeff Bezos launching the White House into outer space. And if you ask me, that's just simply way too much fun for the world to handle. So for now, both the Democratic and the Republican politicians are working within the system in ways that it allows them to work. Money always finds a way. So my life hack is be kinder to each other and let's make family dinners great again. Bye for now.